Well, good evening, everyone. As we look at this map showing the current snow and ice across North America, I can tell you it is going to look substantially different as we head into December. We are seeing a very large and active weather pattern beginning to organize across the country. There was some rather intriguing data that appeared this afternoon on the European forecast model, and we will certainly discuss that today as we examine the long-range signals that are starting to emerge. This includes the Western Pacific Oscillation, or WPO, which is trending negative. We will also talk about the upper-level pattern and take a careful, day-by-day look at the forecast for the West, the central United States, and for the East Coast. Let us begin with the current snow cover, which is not very extensive at the moment. Outside of the mountain regions, there is very little snow on the ground. Incidentally, my friends near Flagstaff are reporting significant snowfall, particularly in the mountains at the ski resort there. They have close to 3 feet of snow on the ground, which makes for beautiful skiing conditions in Arizona. This is quite a contrast to areas just north, in Utah and Colorado, where there is some snow, but nothing comparable to what the far southwest has received. However, some important changes are on the way. I do believe our chances for snow will begin to increase farther to the east as this colder pattern establishes itself. Here you can see the Western Pacific Oscillation is strongly negative today, which indicates a cold pattern is likely for December. Now, if we look at the North Atlantic Oscillation, this is also noteworthy. The European weekly model shows that around the 11th of the month, this index is actually positive, which is quite different from what we might expect. For cold air to settle into the east, we would typically want to see this index trend strongly negative. Yet, both the European weekly model and the GFS model are forecasting a positive North Atlantic Oscillation. This would argue for warmer air across the east, and I believe we are beginning to see signs of that. It appears it will become quite cold across the central United States and the West. The forecast for the East Coast, however, is still to be determined. Let us examine the extended weekly models to see what is happening beyond the immediate future, and I will show you precisely what I mean. As we move toward the first week of December, specifically the 7-day period leading up to the 7th, and then onward toward the 10th, 11th, and 12th, we see a distinct pattern. You can see how a trough, an area of low pressure, has carved out across the country. There is also a huge blocking ridge of high pressure appearing over Alaska. The overall pattern this creates is a cold one. This setup keeps conditions chilly across the northern plains and the Great Lakes, with periodic shots of cold air reaching into the northeast. However, I do believe this will result in a relatively warm arrangement for the south. You will certainly experience pushes of cold air, and it is indeed going to turn colder. The ongoing stratospheric warming event has not changed. However, when I look at this new data showing a positive North Atlantic Oscillation as we head into December, it does make me wonder about the East Coast. The question is whether it will get cold enough for significant winter weather there. Regardless, I am confident that we are preparing for a turn to much colder conditions as we enter the first week of December. Taking a look at the European deterministic upper air pattern, it truly tells the story of what is unfolding. We have a pocket of cold air moving through the southwest, and it is bringing some rain and snow to the region. Because of this, I believe Flagstaff and the high mountains nearby will receive a little more snow. Perhaps folks in parts of Colorado, where the moisture is much needed, will also see some accumulation. We know conditions have been quite dry there, as several viewers from Colorado have mentioned from time to time. Some of this moisture may also reach the northeast as we go through the weekend. Another shot of cold air is moving across Canada within a relatively zonal flow, which means the weather patterns are moving quickly from west to east. Within that flow, a disturbance is set to slide through on Monday and Tuesday. I expect this will bring some snow to parts of Alberta and Saskatchewan, including Calgary. I also believe the southern portions of Manitoba and Saskatchewan will see some snow. We will also need to watch the northern parts of the United States, right along the border and into the Great Lakes as we head into Wednesday and Thursday. The broader pattern begins to turn colder as we approach the Thanksgiving holiday. This means chilly temperatures from the central plains eastward, with temperatures falling all the way into the south before recovering rather quickly. After that, events will unfold rapidly, and I want to show you what is expected to happen. The European model has been forecasting a significant storm developing around the 1st of December. Today's model run looks a little different. Let me point out what I find interesting in the upper level pattern. You can see this large ridge of high pressure attempting to build over the top of the cold air aloft, effectively cutting it off from its source. You can see right here that it has in fact disconnected this air mass from the Arctic. This particular model solution looks a bit unusual to me. The GFS and European models could not be in more disagreement than they are today. However, the European model is consistently maintaining the cold pattern, It is on the leading edge of this cold air where I believe we will see large winter storms develop, and that is precisely what the European model is beginning to detect. I am going to show you the operational model run from today as we discuss the weather for the coming weekend and into next week, and I will take you even further out. In terms of current precipitation, there are some showers moving through parts of the south. We are also seeing precipitation across the mid-Atlantic, with a little light snow managing to move through southern parts of Canada and into southern Ontario. The snow is also increasing here in the Canadian Rockies. For those in Banff, I expect some of that snow will spread eastward. In Edmonton, it will be difficult to get much accumulation from this particular event. However, a small amount is possible. It appears the heavier snow will stay to your south, toward Calgary, and in the high elevations of Montana and Idaho. Meanwhile, the chances for rain will begin to increase across the plains as we head into Monday, due to a respectable ridge of high pressure in the upper levels of the atmosphere. This type of setup will bring relatively warm temperatures to a good portion of the country. At the same time, a snow system will be sliding in along the United States-Canadian border. A couple of inches of snow could fall from this system. While it is relatively weak, it will be enough to lay down a fresh blanket of snow. Then, this system will move eastward. Warm temperatures will build out ahead of it, so expect temperatures to be well above average as we head into Tuesday and Wednesday. The rain will also increase. For the many of you who may be traveling on Tuesday, please be aware that rain is expected all the way from South Texas toward the Great Lakes. Then, behind this system, the air will become cold enough for some snow in places like International Falls. It is uncertain if the snow will make it as far south as Minneapolis, but the northern tier of Minnesota could certainly see some accumulation. Snow is also expected just north of the border in southern Canada. This low-pressure system is moving north and beginning to intensify. As it does so, the upper-level pattern will change. You can see a trough digging in, while a warm ridge builds out ahead of it across the east. This will result in some very warm temperatures for Wednesday, ensuring that all of the precipitation will fall as rain. Afterwards, the cold air will rush in behind the system. Temperatures will start to drop across Texas and down into the deep south. Over in the west, a ridge will begin to build back in ahead of the next storm system that moves ashore. This is the system I want to show you, though I hesitate to do so because, please remember, this is a single operational model run. The details are very likely to change between now and tomorrow. I am more interested in the overall pattern that we are starting to see take shape, and it appears to be a stormy one. With a trough established in the east, we will have the right conditions for lake effect snow. I believe that by around Black Friday, we will be dealing with some significant lake effect snow downwind of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. For those of you who live in that area, I would very much enjoy seeing your pictures of the conditions. You are welcome to post pictures in the comments section of the page if you would like. It is going to be cold, and the lake effect snow will certainly create a chilly, Christmas-like feeling. We will also need to watch a weak system that will be sliding through the Midwest, which could bring some rain and snow toward the end of next week. Now, let us turn our attention to what is happening across the Northwest. This is that next system that I am a bit hesitant to show in detail. If it develops as projected, it would bring a great deal of snow to the mountains. It would also turn conditions quite cold out west, bringing the snow level all the way down to the valley floors. We are talking about the potential for snow in Salt Lake City itself if it gets this cold. Then, this system would move east of the mountains. Notice how strong the European model is with this storm. It is showing a rapidly intensifying low-pressure system, what we call a lee-side low, just to the east of the Rockies. This depiction looks unusual, and I am not certain about all of this mixed precipitation. What is most significant, however, is this huge 1,050 millibar Arctic high-pressure system, which is pumping very cold air southward. With this type of setup, you would have a blizzard on the plains. This right here represents a major storm if it materializes this way. Now, take a look. This was the afternoon model run. Let me show you last night's forecast. It was completely different. So, we have this rather unusual forecast that came out today, and it is interesting to see the models in such disagreement. I believe this is happening because we are dealing with so many dynamic and powerful forces in the atmosphere at the moment. For example, we have the stratospheric warming event. We also have a great deal of high-pressure blocking that is starting to appear as we get toward the first couple of weeks of December. I think the operational models are trying to resolve these complex interactions. And here's another element that seems quite unusual with this potential setup. It becomes very warm in the east at the same time. On the back end of this system, we are seeing some cold air and snow. Now, this new run from the European model is showing something quite extreme. It's trying to push snow all the way down into Texas. Frankly, I do not think so. That seems a bit like Fantasyland at this point. But the important takeaway is how interesting these storm patterns are becoming and where these snowstorms are beginning to appear. Therefore, I believe the potential for snow is certainly growing as we head into December. I am not convinced of this particular forecast just yet, but we will certainly keep a close eye on it. Let me show you the GFS model for comparison. For those of you just joining our live broadcast, you can always rewind and watch from the beginning. You can do that at any time. But this here is the GFS model. Alright, so while there are some different looking setups overall, this is the afternoon run of the GFS. It is not exactly the same, but it is also indicating a storm system around the 1st and 2nd of the month now. So, this particular run looks a little different, perhaps, than the one we saw earlier today. Yes, this is the midday run of the GFS model. It continues to show some unusual activity developing across the central United States. This will be a situation we need to watch very carefully, and I will be monitoring it for you every day. So, if you find this type of detailed weather analysis helpful, I invite you to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you can come back and stay informed. Now, take a look at this. My goodness, the model is forecasting 40 inches of snow here in the northern parts of Nebraska. I must say, that is highly unlikely to happen. If we look at yesterday's models, they look different, but I know some of you might say, gosh, I was relying on yesterday's forecast. Look, if you live and die by every single computer model run, you will go a little stir-crazy. You simply cannot do that. It is one of the reasons I prefer to look at the ensemble guidance for the long range, and that pattern is becoming snowier as we head into December. I have no doubt about that overall trend. Whether that snow falls in your specific backyard remains to be determined, of course. Alright, let us walk through the forecast for the next couple of days. We will begin in the southwest again, where those snow levels are quite high around Flagstaff, so it is not going to be as cold, I think, as the last system. However, we do expect some precipitation from Phoenix up into the southern parts of Colorado. The ski season is getting underway out here across the west with a little more snow falling. Then, the snowfall will begin to intensify again across the Pacific Northwest and into the Canadian Rockies. As this low-pressure system moves east, it will carry that precipitation out onto the plains, and look, it should bring a pretty decent amount of snow up here toward Monday and Tuesday. It would be a wonderful time to visit the Northern Rockies if you enjoy the colder weather and want to see it for yourself. It will turn quite cold there, and then, as we look toward Tuesday, this is the GFS model. It is very different from the European model, is it not? How about that? I am not quite sure what to make of it. That looks a little unusual. The GFS model wants to phase these two separate pieces of atmospheric energy together. The European model, by the way, is not nearly as aggressive with that idea. So here comes that first system into the plains, and there is your system from the Canadian Rockies showing significantly less snow. So there are some subtle but important differences even in the medium-range forecast. And then, once we get past this period, it appears another system will be moving into the northwest, bringing more rain and snow. Here is a look at your temperatures across the southwest. Again, it will be relatively cool, but certainly not as cool or as cold as it has been recently. Therefore, those snow levels will remain a little bit higher across the southwest with this round of precipitation. It will be cold here across the Four Corners states. Now, let us move eastward across the plains and take a closer look at that significant snow the European model was forecasting. Here comes that system moving out of Colorado. This is the European model, by the way. We could flip over to the GFS, but we just looked at it, so I do not believe I need to show you the difference again. The heaviest snow was up here into the Dakotas. Rain will be moving east as we head into Monday, and this looks quite likely as we begin the busy travel season ahead of Thanksgiving. Into Tuesday, colder air will start to build in behind this system. Winds will turn out of the northwest, and it is going to get gusty, but then conditions will quiet down across the plains as high pressure settles in. We are expecting a calm evening leading into Thanksgiving and a peaceful Thanksgiving morning across the Mississippi Valley as that high pressure sets up shop. There will be some snow around the Great Lakes. It will be interesting to watch what happens heading into Friday to see if any precipitation gets squeezed out of the system as it slides in from the northwest and moves toward the Great Lakes. And this brings us to that very interesting storm we were discussing for the 29th of the month. So, this is not for the upcoming weekend, but rather well over a week from now. I hardly need to say anything more. Just, wow. All right. And then take a look at this. It shows snow in Mexico and snow in El Paso. I have to have a good-natured laugh at this. So yes, I do not believe this particular outcome is likely. We will have more to come on this situation. I am just going to move on for now. It will be a warm day tomorrow. These are Saturday's high temperatures. Let us go to the east. It will be cold in the northeast as this chilly air starts to rush in with our trough of low pressure, accompanied by some northwest winds as high pressure begins to settle in. A little bit of rain and snow cannot be ruled out as we head into Sunday. And across Florida, conditions will start to dry out as well, although a bit of an easterly flow will start to pick up. Now, a southwest flow will begin to build as we head into the week across the Northeast and the Great Lakes, bringing warm temperatures. This is a period right before the lake effect snow really starts to get going, folks. As you head into Friday and Saturday, when that cold air moves in, you will certainly notice it. Your temperatures will begin to drop across the Midwest and things will start to dry out. And there are your feeder bands. You can almost see them starting to organize downwind of the Great Lakes. Now for Lake Michigan, I do not know. It is going to be tough. You are not going to have the right wind trajectory. But watch this, as it comes off of Lake Superior and Lake Huron. The question is, will we end up with some residual moisture that is able to tap into Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, leading to some enhancement? It will be interesting to see, as that could produce some very heavy snow right along the Interstate 90 corridor and perhaps the Tug Hill Plateau if you can shift that band farther to the north. Another weak system will bring some rain and snow to this region, then high pressure settles. Across the south, once again. And then we see another warm-up. It appears that as we head toward the 29th and the 30th, this type of storm track will definitely keep it warm across the east, while a massive winter storm develops back to the west. Again, this is just one operational model run. I promise you the forecast will be different tomorrow, and I will have an update for you. But this run does try to produce some unusual weather for the north, for the Great Lakes, and into the northeast, heading toward the 4th and 5th of the month. That is still a long way to go. We are going to be continuing to watch this. Now, look at these temperatures. Look at this difference. I mean, if you are up here in Pittsburgh looking at mid-40s for high temperatures, and then you look just to the south towards Charlotte, just a 4 or 5 hour drive away, you are in the upper 70s. It will be a beautiful day in Charlotte, though. Those temperatures will start to drop. We are back into the 60s on Sunday. It will be cold in the Northeast. The skiing is better in the Northeast than it is in the West right now. Look at those Northeast ski resorts. I am telling you, it has been cold. The snow has been made, and there has even been quite a bit of natural snow up there, too. We will start to see the change happen as we head toward Wednesday and Thursday. Here comes your cold air building in by Friday morning. Look at your low temperatures dropping back into the 20s, which is well below freezing. On Friday afternoon, many areas will remain below freezing. And again, this would be the time when you are dealing with this lake effect snow. More to come on that. If you enjoy this kind of detailed weather discussion, please hit that subscribe button, come back, and we will see you next time. If you missed the live broadcast, remember, you can check it out anytime right here on the channel. Take care.